I mentioned at the start we have Lieutenant Colonel Allen West in studio today. So, hello, sir. Welcome to
to be with you. And if I can comment on your first five, there's a difference between the three branches of government, which really is how this constitutional republic is supposed to operate under our rule of law. For the progressive socialist left, they have three branches of rule, and that is the academia, that is the media, and that is the courts. And so what you just brought out, 37 times you have had activist judges, activist courts step in and do everything they can to obstruct the executive branch and what they're seeking to do. These are co-equal branches of government, but yet the left has done a brilliant strategic job of getting all of their judges in there and into these circuit courts or federal courts so that they can truly control the agenda and rule by edict, if you want to call it that way. So the fact that here you have someone that is ruling on behalf of the Sierra Club and not ruling on the behalf of the American people, because they're supposed to interpret the law based upon our Constitution, not because of some special interest group.
Well, amen to that. I should have said that in my first five. That was great.
Well, that's why you brought me on. You're so brilliant. There are going to be a few things you forget. And so you have this dumb little University of Tennessee guy here to kind of pull you along.
For the few of our listeners who do not recognize Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, he's a former U.S. congressman, a brave military patriot and veteran, a strong supporter of veterans, a nationally renowned speaker on many national security, national defense subjects. Love having you in.
Always a pleasure.
I always have a longer list of topics than we have time for, so I'm going to jump in. But I love what you just said. That's exactly right. And actually, the other problem with the left having the courts undermining President Trump is because if you're not really tuned into politics much and you see and read that repeatedly President Trump's orders are struck down by judges, are in fact labeled in some cases as xenophobic, full of discrimination, hateful. You start to wonder, well, maybe the political types argue, but this is a court. This is a judge. If he says it, it must be true. It really hurts America.
It really does, because that's the perception they want out there. That's the optic. And it's that constant, continuous pounding, between the media, between the courts. And therefore, if you're tuning in to some of those other news stations, the MSNBC, CNNs, or whatever, you're getting those half-truths. You're getting that bombardment of propaganda, not news. And you fail to understand, like I said, there are three branches of government that are co-equal branches, not these three branches of rule, which the left loves.
They most certainly do. And I am very troubled by moving forward. We had to wait with all the rulings and executive orders by President Trump related to the refugee policies and visa and closer scrutiny. You had to wait till it got to the Supreme Court. And this is another success on the left because they delay everything he's trying to do.
Absolutely. And you think about it, how many of these judges came out and said anything when Barack Obama took an unconstitutional act with the DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, which he admitted he did not have the power to do, but yet he did. Isn't that amazing? Yes. The president said, I don't have the power to do this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. And you had nothing from the courts that are out there, just complete silence.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. This judge, by the way, the one just mentioned who struck down the border funding, there's a list that's boring to go through, but how many dollars he donated to the Obama campaign, to some of the PACs that supported President Obama. This is a left-wing judge, and people do not lose their thinking or their mindset when they become judges. They are supposed to be neutral, and you promise when you take your oath of office to become a judge to apply the law. But when you've had so many judges on the left strike down so much that President Trump does, there's something wrong. It's just not.
And that's a great comparative analysis you did. 1.5 times for Clinton and Bush, the latter, and then 2.5 times, per year for Obama, and 37 times, 18 per year. That tells you something.
Yep, sure does. But what I want to talk about, in addition to that, so we have these European Union elections.
Yes.
I think May 26th, which was Sunday, was the last day, but it was over several days, several countries. And there was a lot of talk ahead of time about some of the, for example, in the UK, the Brexit Party growing in strength, and in other European countries. So these countries are electing people to serve in the EU's parliament, that there was a growing strength among parties in these various respective European countries who were more of the nationalist mindset, they kind of want their country back.
They want their sovereignty back.
That's what I was going to ask you. My overarching question to start with was, what do you think it says when you have these nationalist-type parties really pretty much winning the elections throughout the European Union?
What it says is that they don't want this collective political body, politic, that is trying to tell them how to run their countries. The European Union came together to try to more so help with economic and trade issues. Now all of a sudden it has become a lawmaking type of body, and it is telling these respective member states how to run their business. Case in point with immigration. So now if someone, as in the case of Germany, they have this immigration policy that allows for these quote unquote migrants to come into the country, and we know many of them were Islamic jihadists. Now they have free access anywhere within this quote unquote European Union. And now you have folks that are in that European Union that are saying to Britain, well, you can't, to the UK, you can't do this or you can't do that with trade. I hate to tell you, there was a UK long before there was an EU, and they used to do trade and things of that nature. And I think that a lot of folks over there are looking and saying, just the same as they did in Brazil, this Donald Trump guy, maybe he's a New Yorker, maybe he has that flamboyant, boisterous personality, but he's getting things done for the American people. Well, we want some folks that are going to get things done for us as well. So I think you're going to see an incredible tidal wave, just the same as the Brexit came before Donald Trump was elected. Now you see this action coming. And I think for the progressive socialist left, it does not bode well for them, because we don't like these collective bodies of government, such as the United Nations.
Absolutely true. And, related to that, within the European Union, I love the idea of sovereignty, and that's a beautiful concept for individual countries to claim for themselves. We are the country, we choose our government, we make our laws govern us. And so it is, within America, part of the reason there's so much pushing back against the globalist mindset,
Absolutely.
the UN mindset, that America has an identity that is important, that's unique, that is rooted in rights. And I do think that the efforts to claim nationalism get mocked a lot by the left, saying, oh, this is either racist, xenophobic, homophobic, something bad.
Well, they have to call your name. They have to try to get you to self-censor. They have to denigrate, disparage, and demean you in the open public sphere of ideas, because they know that they're wrong. And so what they are trusting on is for you to say, I really don't want to be called a name, so I'll shut up. But that's why we have to continue to press this thing, because if not, you have the United Nations that is trying to get into the business of more countries. And you have this whole climate change movement, which is nothing more than a global wealth redistribution scheme. And that's what President Obama signed us up for with the Paris Climate Accords, which was a unilateral action that is non-binding. And so we have got to make sure that we have people that understand American sovereignty. And it comes back, like you said, we got borders. That's part of your sovereignty. And for this judge to rule against the President of the United States and the oath that he took to the Constitution, where you have many different articles, Article 4, Section 4, that talks about protecting our borders and the sovereignty, he's wrong. And so I think there's going to come a time when President Trump needs to give a speech on the Constitution, and he really needs to get the attention of the American people and bring out what you just said. These people are obstructing the executive branch because they lost.
That's a good summary. They're obstructing the executive branch because they lost. Back to the EU, though, this is a really interesting thing, because part of the reason that the individual member countries formed and joined the EU is for economic strength.
Absolutely.
They thought they could better trade deals, but they soon realized that the trade deals that the collective wanted, the EU, didn't really necessarily bode well for them individually. And I read about something, maybe you mentioned this in my show years ago, but there was an example where the United Kingdom's production of butter, they had companies that were, manufacturing butter, marketing, wanting to sell it. But the butter somehow didn't meet a standard that the EU had in place. There was something about the sweetener. I don't remember what, but the point of it was they were blocked for years from selling butter produced in the UK into Europe because of some seemingly obscure EU standard. That's the kind of thing that makes the individual citizen say, why do we join them if they're stopping
Absolutely.
me?
If they're working against our best interests, if they're not helping us as far as being able to conduct commerce and trade with other countries and strengthen our position, instead they're trying to, once again, by coercion, by mandate, by threat, violence, intimidation, they're forcing their agenda on these member states, these member nations. And that's why I think you saw this incredible flipping of those seats in the EU Parliament.
Yeah, and especially the UK has been interesting because they have many parties. A lot of these countries do, but many parties. And the Brexit Party, which was the acronym for the British exit from the EU, which I know you know, but the Brexit Party formally announced itself, whatever it was, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, that we're going to be a party, and they won in some portions of the UK. They won the majority of seats that were available to them at the EU as compared with other parties.
Absolutely.
So that mindset is there. I have to tell you, I love that mindset of we don't take the ruling elite, we just don't salute. We, the people, are going to speak up.
Well, it's not about the buy or leave. It's not about what John Locke, was against, divine rights theory, where this certain group of intellectual elites or entertainment, cultural, academic elites believe that, you're supposed to be collectively subjugated to them. This is about individual sovereignty. This is about the natural rights that you have. And I think that you're going to see an incredible revolution against this oppressive nature of the progressive socialist left. Eventually, the tide's going to turn in a place like Venezuela. And we are now seeing that it has turned with the European Union. And the British people voted to exit. and that's why Theresa May is having to step down, because she didn't deliver on the referendum of the people.
They just can't believe that people are smart enough to figure things out. I mean, it really is a big part of it. I think there's a mindset among the ruling elite types that once we're in and we get the big picture and we understand all these factors that the people don't, you can vote and thanks very much for your opinion, but they just think they're smarter. And I love that the people, and it's happening here in America, is why Trump won in 2016. Yes. People just say, no, actually, you're not smarter. You might have been elected to Congress, you might have been an official in whatever, the government for years, but we're as smart as you, and we are going to demand that our values. And I just love that spirit.
Well, it has to come back, because that's how this country got started in the first place. When 13 little colonies rebelled against the greatest power that the world knew at that time, the elite power of England. And we did it by just standing on principle. And I think that that's what we have to get back to.
Love that. So actually, we've touched on it several different ways, but I was going to ask you about your thought about how much Trump's presence, rise to power in America has inspired the Western European countries in this election. In particular, President Trump was, I don't remember when it was, but he was over in England and he essentially was advocating for Brexit. The vote had occurred, and he was saying, come on, this is great. And he was supporting Brexit, and there were people in America saying that was kind of unseemly, that he should stay out of it, it's not his business.
Well, yeah, but then that's the hypocrisy, because Barack Obama, was interjecting himself in the same thing and saying, maybe we won't have, we'll tell England to get to the back of the bus when it comes to trade.
He sure did.
Have you. Absolutely.
I forgot about that.
See, that's why you got me here, Debbie. I mean,
that's right.
But that's the whole point. The hypocrisy of the left is completely being exposed.
Yeah. On the subject of President Trump being over there, that, and he, I don't remember the exact context, but he was making the point that the people have voted and they really want their sovereignty. They want their country back. And even though in America, a lot of the academics and kind of elitists were saying, well, it's really unseemly. It's not his business. He shouldn't be saying that. He was really advocating for, it's a wider universal idea that he gave voice to in America, that they were giving voice to in UK, which you saw in this Brexit, in this vote for the EU this past week. And I think it's a really healthy international movement, and in a way, it's pressing back against the globalist mindset. The UN's been trying to say this is the new norm. We're all just one big country, and we're all going to
a borderless world.
Yeah,
and that just does not work. Because we all have our constitutions, we all have our respective rules of law, we all have our cultures and traditions, and we have to be able to maintain and sustain those things. And not, like I say, the collective subjugation, it has to end. Brazil, even, they realized it, and they have their own Donald Trump of South America.
Yep, love it. Love it. And actually, the gentleman who is trying to get power in Argentina, Guaido, however you say his name, he is also, he's in a battle right now, but I mean, he's trying to say, no, actually, we're not going to do, here we're going to have that same kind of concept. We're going to overthrow these socialist ruling elites. We're going to have our freedom, our country back.
I wrote a piece last week for CNS News, and it was titled, Socialism is the Philosophy of the Control Freaks.
That's a great title. That is a great title. Go ahead, sorry.
That's what they are. I mean, they really don't believe that you have the competence to be able to deal with your own life and make decisions for yourselves. And so that's why they want to control who gets wealth. I mean, Bill de Blasio coming out and saying there's a lot of money in the world, there's a lot of money in America, it's just in the wrong hands. They want to control your health care. They want to control what you eat. They want to control what you drive. And that's who they are. And they come out with the mantra of, well, we'll give it to you for free. But it's all about how they can control you, because once you accept their idea of, free, then you're dependent upon them.
Yep.
So that's what we have to try to explain, is that these people are all about controlling every aspect of your life. And if they can't have it, they will go apoplectic and they will do everything they can, like this judge who cares more about the Sierra Club than the safety and security of the American people.